Tight. Hey guys, what's up? And happy Friday. Welcome to an episode of In With Alec. Excited to be here. Xavier, Mark, Matthew, Steve, appreciate you guys being here. Go ahead and drop me a message in the chat. Let me know where you're from and your favorite hand and what you're kind of up to this weekend. And if you're playing any poker, where are you playing? I'd be curious to know. So it's been a week. It's been fun to do these. I'm excited to be back here. I got a special guest for you here today, a client of mine, Ronnie. And we've been working together now for a little bit, and he was nice enough to come on the air. We got two exciting hands we're going to review, one from a cash game, one from a tournament. For those of you that are new here, welcome. Be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button so you stay up to date when new YouTube Live comes out. We put out new videos every week. Really working hard to put out some awesome content for you in the coming weeks that I think you're really going to enjoy. So be sure to stay tuned and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for your support and being here. Just to give you an update with the format, what we do with these is I have, Ronnie was kind enough to come on the show and share his hands and let me critique him live. But to keep it fun and exciting and interesting, one of the things that the clients enjoy that I decided to bring to the YouTube format is I always like to review their hands in real time without seeing them. So I haven't seen these two hands. He sent them to my team. They put them in the replayer, and I'm going to be watching them for the first time with you guys live and with Ronnie live on YouTube. So I don't know the results. I don't know what the hands are about or what happened. And so you'll get to see my raw thoughts. Right or wrong, we don't know. It'll be fun. And I think that's part of the process. But at least you'll get to see how I think in real time, and hopefully that helps your thought process as well. And that's largely the goal here. So that's it for announcements. If you'll see some content there to download if you want some free hand reading system, which we're going to talk about more in the YouTube Live, my process for hand reading. I feel like that's a great next step for a lot of you to help improve at poker. So check that out. And we are going to go. Ronnie, you're on the air, man. How you doing, Ronnie?
How you doing?
Hey, so tell the guys at home a little bit about where you're from and what games you play regularly, kind of where you're at in poker, and yeah, give them a little rundown.
I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm currently plays in New Orleans mostly, and I travel back and forth. I'm playing mostly live cash game 1-3, 2-5, and play a lot of tournaments.
Yeah, awesome. So I know we have a hand from both formats here that we're going to review today. And we've been working together, but we went over some of the business plan, mental game side of poker. We haven't gone into the strategy, so I'm excited to do this with you. And it's funny, we're doing it live here for the first time. So let's jump in. Can everyone see the screen and hear Ronnie? Type in the chat, give me a big yes. Ronnie, you should be on the air too with the hand replayer. Okay, guys. This hand is from a tournament. Ronnie, you want to paint the picture, kind of like what's going on here?
Well, this is a $1,000 buy-in tournament in Pennsylvania. And this table dynamic happen to have one or two like tournament grinders in there, but mostly this feels pretty soft. And yeah, I wound up chopping heads up for that entire tournament. But that hand I think is very interesting. That as you can see, that I think I made a huge mistake on the river.
Hey, don't say anything yet. Don't.
No, I'm not. I'm gonna say I just wanted you to criticize me at the river what I did wrong.
Oh, I appreciate you have the right mindset here, allowing me to kind of pick things apart coming on the show. So I appreciate that. All right, let's dive in. This will be interesting here. So we have quite a big stack here. You're doing well, Ronnie. You got 200 big blinds.
Yeah, I was the overwhelming chip leader at the table at the time.
Okay. All right, we got our small raise here. I'm assuming there's antes at this point too.
Yeah, big blind ante.
Yeah, exactly. So here we have a clear call. I mean, we're in the big blind. We're getting a great price. we don't have a great hand, but it's just a sheer math play here. I mean, just the odds we're getting are so good that we're gonna have to continue here. So I think we have a clear call here at this point. Really not much else to do, and a lot of these situations come up in the big blind where you're just going to be defending very wide, realize your equity, call down, and hope to hit, which is what you did, Ronnie. Awesome. So what's the move here? We check?
Yes, check.
Okay, he checks. That's unfortunate. So, I mean, the good news is, though, when he checks here, you pretty much always have the best hand.
Yes.
So using... and I mentioned this in the beginning, in the intro to hand reading, the PDF you see in the upper right. The process I use there is called a hand range funnel. And the basis of the hand range funnel is to help people narrow down the types of hands their opponents are holding based on the action they take. So right here, the fact that our opponent checked the flop means he almost never has a better hand. I don't want to say never. I know that some of the time he could have a set of queens or something, fine. But I would say 97% of the time he doesn't have us beat. So the process of the hand range funnel says, one of the key concepts is that if you eliminate a hand from your opponent's holding, he can't have that on a future street. So the fact that we eliminated those good hands from his range based on the fact that he checked, because if he had a better hand, he would bet here. This is a scary board. It's likely to connect with us. We could have any queen, any jack, any 9, any 10, any 8. A lot of those hands are going to be calling a bet. So it doesn't really make sense for him to check with a strong hand. So because we eliminate strong hands from his range, now he could have strong hands like king, queen, but we beat those hands. So we almost always have the best hand here, and we can determine that by using that hand range funnel, by narrowing down the hands he has based on how he plays. So it's really powerful stuff, and it gives you insight into where you are likely at in a hand, so you could come up with the best strategy. Well, this is a brilliant turn, Ronnie. So what are you thinking now?
I think when like you said, when he checks back, his range is really not that strong. So it's a must bet, but I don't think I need to bet a lot. I'm trying to get hands like gut shot in the hand now, because right now I'm pretty strong. So I want to bet a size that they could call even a gut shot, or maybe 10 hands like pocket 10, or maybe some club draw, backdoor club draw that got there that they could call. I don't want to blow him off the pack, so I bet around the size I bet, like 1,500. Try to get called by some. I mean, I think that in the fact that if he's gonna fold, he's gonna fold anything that he doesn't absolutely garbage. He's gonna fold anyway. I don't think size is really matter if he's gonna fold too much. But I want to make sure that you price him in on the hand like gut shot.
Yeah, I understand, definitely. So guys, let me know in the chat what you're thinking. I see that's an interesting take here, Ronnie. I want to expand upon that. I see some different thoughts here in the chat. Guys, let me know what you would do here in the chat. Would you bet this turn? And if so, how much? Drop me your thoughts in a comment. I think I like your approach here. I mean, one thing that I want to challenge people to think about before making a decision is to think about what they're trying to accomplish. What hands are you trying to target, and what are your goals with betting? So you made a good point, Ronnie, and whether it's right or wrong, your approach is what I like. Your macro mindset is the right one, in that you're thinking about what hands you're trying to target, and then you're constructing a strategy to best exploit those hands. So you mentioned yourself, look, you're targeting weak pairs, maybe like a jack or pocket 10s, pocket 9s, or maybe a gut shot like ace king, right, is a gut shot with 2 overs. So you want to bet an amount that those hands will call. And I think, half pot accomplishes that. I think all those hands are going to call a half pot bet. Same with a, backdoor flush draw. If he does have ace 4 of clubs, he's definitely going to call as well. So I think this bet size is fine. I think you target all of those hands. And it's good. It gets a call. So river comes at ace. Interesting. What would you do? Type me in chat. What is your play now on this river? Are you betting here? Are you check raising here? Check calling here? Let me know your thoughts in the chat. By the way, guys, if you want to hop on the call here with me and ask me questions that we're going to talk about after, there's a link in the description below on Zoom, and you can hop on a call and you can ask me anything at the end of the show. Ronnie, what are your thoughts here on this river, man?
I want to give you a little rundown about the opponent. What happened is he's one of the few two tournament grinders on the table, so he understands bet sizing. He understands a lot of other things that I think that other tournament regs do not understand. So ace is probably pretty good for his range.
Yes.
I think, okay. So but since I took the lead on the turn, I'm not going to give up. So I bet in a size I'm trying to induce.
Induce what? A bluff?
Yes, induce like a over, because once I bet, if I bet too much, most of his ranges can continue, that other than beating me. But he could bluff. If I show weakness by my sizing, I feel that I could get a bluff bet in. He will raise me as a bluff, because the range is actually stronger if I bet smaller for him than it is for me.
Yeah, but why would he raise as a bluff? I mean, what hands? It depends on what level he's on. If he's really a good player, is he really going to represent a bluff, a raise here? Like, what hands is he raising? Let's say he had ace king. He's not going to raise this river. He's going to just call.
Well, if ace king, then he's just going to flat. So there's nothing I could do. I mean, if I bet more, then he's just going to flat with ace king. But even in ace king, I think on that board, if I bet in a polar size, that he could fold. You understand something?
Yeah, I don't disagree with, I think if you bet really big here, he might fold an ace, maybe not. But I'm questioning the likelihood that he raises you on a bluff if you bet small. Because first of all, what bluffs is he going to have? Maybe he has pocket tens. But is he really going to raise this river with pocket tens as a bluff? I mean, what hands is he representing when he raises the river? He's representing a hand that checked the flop and just flat called the turn. Now he's raising the river. I mean, what is he representing? He's representing like pocket jacks, I guess, or pocket queens. I mean, maybe. I think pocket queens. Pocket queens. Yeah, maybe he does it. It depends on your opponent. I mean,
I'm blocking pocket aces as well, because I'm not blocking pocket aces. If you have hands like ace 10, he probably would use that as a bluff. Ace 10 is a good candidate as a bluff.
Yeah, but I think ace 10...
blocking straights and he's blocking half full houses.
Yeah, but if he has ace 10 and you bet 3K, he's just going to call. He's not going to raise you. I mean, he has such a strong hand, he can just call and win, right?
Ace 10? I don't think ace 10 could call. I don't think ace 10 could call $2,000 bet. Ace 10 can go.
Oh, I think if he has ace 10 and you bet half the pot, he's getting 3-1. He only needs 25% chance of winning. I think ace 10 is going to call. Maybe pocket tens will fold.
At that time, that's what I was thinking, that I'm mostly trying to get bluffs, like hands, like you say, a backdoor flush that break, or gut shot that break. Like I said, ace get a call regardless. Maybe, but I'm targeting a range that mostly bluffs. That has equity on the turn. That will fire because the ace came off. Will raise as a bluff.
I think maybe a check might accomplish that too, where he might bluff, or he might value bet an ace if you check, and then you can go for a check raise. That's another option as well. Okay, so if you do bet small, this is very interesting. One thing this bet does is it protects your hands. So when you're betting small with a strong hand, it makes you really hard to play against because your opponents don't know what your bet sizes mean. And this is a good tool to have in your arsenal because, like you said, it does induce. It looks like you have a queen, and you're kind of just betting to get a cheap showdown, trying to chop the pot or something like that, Or maybe it looks like you have a weak ace, like ace-10 or ace-9, and you turned a gut shot or you flopped a gut shot, and then you are now betting for value on the river with a weak ace. So I actually think he's never going to put you on a really strong hand. And so this is a spot where this might actually induce a bluff raise from him. And I think this is the perfect size to do it. So now that we got raised, guys, what is your strategy here on the river? Let me know in the chat. Would you fold? Of course not. Would you? I'll give you the answer to that one. You're never folding. Would you call or would you re-raise here? Let me know your thoughts in the chat. So Ronnie, what are you thinking now that he raised? I mean, you kind of got what you wanted, but it's scary to 3-bet, no? What are you thinking?
That's why I make the mistake. That's why you criticize me the mistake.
Okay, so this is a quite what is called polarizing raise. Not necessarily polarizing because you bet so small, so he might be raising you for value with a marginal hand like ace queen or ace jack. He might be raising for value, but the real question is, even if he has those hands, like let's say you think your hand is good because he has ace jack or ace queen or ace king or whatever, the real question is, how is he going to react if you 3-bet? Because if you 3-bet, sure, you might have the best hand, but if he's only calling your 3-bet with hands that beat you, then your 3-bet has no value. Because if he's bluffing, he's going to fold. If he has ace jack and you 3-bet the river, he's never going to call. I mean, most people, 90% of the time they're going to fold. They're not going to call the river with ace jack. So even if he has a hand that you beat, he's going to fold. So the only hands that he calls this river with are hands that actually were trapping, like jacks full, queens full, ace 8, or aces. And all those hands beat you. So I don't think, he might have a hand like king 10, but king 10 probably bets the flop. And king 10, again, even if he has king 10.
9-10, probably 9-10. I think 9-10 would call. I think if there's one hand that's okay, maybe 9-10, that flop straight, like some viewers here say that he could trap at 9-10.
Yeah, he could have 9-10. He could have king 10. 9-10 and king 10 are the exact same hand facing a 3-bet because they only beat bluffs. And
what I'm saying is that 9-10 could check the flop.
Yeah, 9-10 is possible in his range. There are 4 combinations of that. He could only have 9-10 suited, so there's only 4 combos. That's possible. Same with king 10. He's probably going to have king 10 suited. But I mean, even if he has those hands, is he really going to call a 3-bet? I mean, think about yourself in that spot.
That's the question. That's why I made the mistake.
Yeah. So I think
as soon as I made that, as soon as I did what I did, I immediately regret it. I immediately regret what I did.
Yeah. So I think that even though it's likely you have the best hand, and I would happily call this river. I would never fold this river. I would happily call here. I wouldn't raise just because in a tournament, nobody expects you to bet and then 3-bet the river as a bluff. So they're not going to hero call you with a weak range. They're only going to call you with a strong range. In fact, if you 3-bet this river, he's going to be very tight in his calling range. If you 3-bet the river and he has ace 8, he's not happy about calling. I mean, he is happy with ace 8, but he's only going to be calling with ace 8 or better. He's not going to be calling with 8-9 here even, or 9-10 or something. So I would just call here on the river. I'd expect to win most of the time.
I think that the biggest, because when I move in, that's what I say is immediately regret it. And afterwards, I actually talked to him. We actually discussed that hand, I was asking, would he call with a straight? If he's not calling with a straight, then that is horrible. That river move in is absolutely trash.
Yeah.
I feel, so if I can't even target that, then that's trash.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is you have to really ask yourself, what hands is he calling with? And I think here it's unlikely that you're going to get called by a worse hand. And so for that reason, I would just call, because if he calls your river jam, he has a boat. And even though he's only going to have a boat, maybe 20% of the time, you're only losing. Yeah. You're always losing. You're winning 80%, but that 20% you're always just losing.
Yeah,
so
I think it's better to have a better full house, but I don't. Since I have the absolute worst full house in the spot. Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah,
that's horrible.
Yeah,
that's
so
why I said this. I made that huge mistake. I don't think that inducing. Matter of fact, he had Jack 10. He told me he had Jack 10. He turned Jack 10 into a bluff.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, it's not a bad strategy, but he's never going to call the river with Jack 10.
Yeah. So that's I think that induction bet is fine. It's just that my biggest mistake is coming to move in on the river.
Yeah, I actually like the induction bet. That was pretty creative on your part, and one of the things in poker, Ronnie, is just thinking one level higher than your opponent. So if you thought that he was on the level of you betting small, him interpreting it as weak, and then raising as a bluff, you read the situation really well. So yeah, I think just that last part of the follow through could be improved, but otherwise, great job. Let's move on to that second hand now and talk about a cash game hand here. And go over this. So we're playing 2-5. Where are you playing this cash game?
Same place.
Okay.
In Pennsylvania.
So let's see if I can move this little thing out of the way. Okay. So we have a raise to 20, and we are on the button. I mean, because you're so deep, I think this hand could be, viable. I think like most of the time I would just be folding here. So like, I'm skeptical of saying people should be playing these suited connectors, because I think 90% of the time this specific hand should be folded. But because you're on the button, number one, because you're so deep, number two, I think this otherwise fold could be a profitable call. But I don't want to make that a default for most people, because if you're 100 big blinds deep and you're playing 6-4 suited, it's just not a good macro strategy. It's way too loose. So keep in mind that this is an exception, a big exception to the rule, and you can potentially get away with it. One other option here is if you had a little bit better of a hand, like 7-6 suited, you can maybe go for a 3-bet as a bluff. Because you're so deep, you can make it 120, and it's kind of a good hand to have as a bluff because it gives you some coverage on boards that are lower, and it also allows you to win the pot when the board comes, ace high. People will put you on the big cards, and if the small cards come, then you have a pretty strong hand. So it's a deceptive play. It's to be used sparingly, and I think that could be effective as well. But we go ahead. Oh, we actually 3-bet here. So yeah, I think I'd like to have a little bit better of a hand. My caution to people, watching or you, Ronnie, is just not to make this the default play and be doing this all the time.
No. I'm doing this because for the fact that it's very opponent based. The two that I'm raising against is, number one, I get a caller on the raise, and the original raiser is a reg on the game that is very loose post the preflop, a very ABC post flop. So I could exploit him, like you said, on a lot of boards. I could exploit him on post flop.
Yeah. So if you know that he's just going to call preflop and then check fold most flops, this could be a great setup for that, and you can set that up with a 3-bet preflop. So let's see if it works. Wow, now you get a back raise here. That's really weird because this guy just flatted preflop, and now he's raising. So it makes me think he was just flatting preflop with a strong hand. I would pretty much never assume this to be a bluff because he made it so small. So it feels to me like this is like I feel like I priced it. That's what I call it. Yeah, it feels to me like an info raise or a value raise. I'll honestly feel like if it was a value raise and he had like aces, he would go bigger because this is so small. I mean, it doesn't make sense to go 300 when you're calling 175. The pot is already, I don't know, 550. You're calling 175 to win 550 and you're in position. Why would he give you 3-1, when you're in position? Like, you're almost priced in here. So,
am I priced in? That's the question I want to ask you.
Yeah, you're pretty much priced in here because you're calling 175. The pot is let's call it 550. So you're basically getting 3-1, which means you need 25% equity. You need 25% equity. Even if he has aces, you basically have that. So plus you can bust him if you hit your hand. So I would probably call here, also knowing that the under the gun +2 is going to call. If you figure he's going to call, then you're actually getting 4-1 because you assume he's going to call as well. So your odds against the pot are even better. Does it make sense?
Yes, that's what I think.
So I think calling is fine. I wouldn't love it, but if he gives me that good of a price, I'm probably not going to fold. Okay, so that is one of the downsides of 3-betting. But, it's just part of the game. So, all right. Check. Oh, wow. That's interesting. Okay, so guys, what do you do here in chat? Let me know. Are you betting or are you checking? This is interesting. Because the thing here is if you bet and you get check raised, you just give away all your equity. But if you bet, you can get a hand like ace-king to fold. So it really just, it kind of goes both ways here. I could see pros and cons for both. I know what I'm leaning towards, but let me know your thoughts in chat. I see people check. I see people say overbet. I see people say half pot bet. I see people say pretty much everything. What are your thoughts here, Ronnie?
I think that I have with my hand again I have one of the best flop I could hope for.
Yeah, flop to flush draw.
And then I have absolutely no showdown value. I'm in position. I have ace queen in my range a lot, and I think I could rep ace queen by betting. I feel I need to bet here, but I don't know. I don't know if I should size it bigger or I should size the way I size. I don't know if I made a sizing mistake. Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, if you your target, it's important to go back to what we talked about in the first hand and in conjunction with the hand range funnel. So when you use the hand range funnel, you can really narrow down what your opponents have and help figure out how to make the best decision possible. So if you think about this, you're targeting hands like ace-king. You're not targeting, like ace-queen that checked the flop or king-queen that checked the flop or pocket aces. I mean, those hands are going to call any size bet. Ace-king is pretty much going to fold to any size bet. So I think betting, between the third and half the pot here is fine. And if your opponent has a hand like jacks, he's probably going to call regardless of how big you bet. So some people say like, oh, well, what if he has jacks? You bet bigger, he folds. But I mean, if he has jacks, he's probably going to call because, you're on the button. You can easily have air. You can have friggin' 9-10, 6-7 suited, ace-5 suited. I mean, you can have a lot of hands. You're on the button. So, I mean, you can have king-jack suited, king-10 suited, ace-jack suited. I mean, he's not going to fold 2 jacks. So you're not really accomplishing anything by betting big. So I think the small bet size is fine. And again, using the hand range funnel, you think about what hands, number one, are in my opponent's range. And then what hands of that range am I targeting? What do I want to accomplish with my bet? And basically, you want to get air to fold. You want, under the gun +2 to fold. Under the gun +2 might fold pocket nines because he has a player behind him. But the low jack is never going to fold, a hand like jacks because he's heads up and he's only heads up against you. He doesn't have to worry about the player behind him. So you're basically targeting air from both players, and this bet size accomplishes that. So I'm fine with this bet size. Now he check calls. Okay, so now using the hand range funnel, what hands do you guys put him on? This is an exercise in hand reading. What hands is he going to, number one, flat call a raise with preflop? Then 4-bet the preflop after a raise and a call, and then check call the flop with. So if you think about, I want you to imagine a funnel. Okay, starting with preflop, what hands does he flat call an open with? And then going down the funnel, what hands of that range does he back raise after a raise and a call? And then on the flop, what hands does he check with that are part of the previous range preflop? And then what hands does he just flat call with after a bet? So in order for him to have a hand, one of the principles of the hand range funnel is in order for him to have a hand on the flop, he must have played it that way on every single previous street. So if you guys say he has 2 aces, he would have had to play 2 aces that way every single step of the hand. In other words, he had to flat call an open, back raise to 300, and then check call the flop. If he wouldn't take any one of those actions, then he cannot have that hand. That's one of the principles of the hand range funnel. So for more on that, check out the intro to hand reading at the link in the description below. You can download this for free and see my exact process that I use and how to implement it into your own game. So I have some great answers here. Some people saying all sorts of things that you can have. I love your guys' process. Keep up the good work in analyzing hands. This is the process that you're going to use to get better. So Ronnie, what are you thinking that he has at this point? What did you kind of put him on here?
I think jacks, hands like jacks, hands. Probably, I don't think ace king is gonna be there. I don't think he'll do that with ace king. I think mostly like jacks and tens. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you here on jacks. I think he also might have some queens. Like, he might check with king queen here, or ace queen. Ace queen is a little bit more likely because I don't think king queen.
I don't think he's back raising king queen.
I don't think he's back. Exactly, that was my point. I don't think he's back raising king queen, so I think ace queen is more likely. He might back raise ace queen preflop. So I think ace queen is definitely possible. And like you said, jacks is another possible hand. So let's see what happens. Turn is an 8. Wow, now he leads out 400. What a weird bet. Why would he bet when the 8 comes?
That is and that one was confused the heck out of me. I have no idea what's going on at that point. See, I was like, all the rings that we just talked about should never ever lead in this spot. I have no idea what's going on, and I just use that, and that's why what I did is to base on math. Just use my math. I have no idea. Makes no sense whatever he's doing.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me either. I mean, he never really has an 8. Like, how can he play an 8 this way? If you go back through the hand range funnel, I mean, what 8s does he have pre-flop? Sorry guys, I'm getting a call. I guess it makes sense for him to have an 8 on the turn. Like, if he had an 8, I guess he would bet it. But could he really have an 8 pre-flop? I mean, probably not. But even if he does have an 8, look, I mean, what you have to go through here is just the math. The pot is 2,000. You're calling 400 to win 2,000. So you're getting a great price. Even if he has, ace queen, you're still getting the right price if you include the fact that you have what's called implied odds, meaning you could win more money if you hit your card. Because if he has, ace queen and the river's a heart, is he really going to just check fold? He might not get away from his hand. He might win a bet on the river. So I think here, based on the math, even if you don't know what he has, you have to just call because you're getting the right price. And then, yeah, like if he jams the river, you fold. And if he checks the river, you decide, depending on what the river is and whatnot. So I would call here based on the math. If he bet bigger, like if he bet 1,000, I would fold. Like, no question, because you're not getting the right price at that point, and you don't have as many implied odds because there's not as much money behind. So I would just fold, but he just priced you into this hand, and that's all there is to it. Ooh, what a sick river. Okay, so now if he bets, he always has a queen because he's never going to bluff here at this point. I think that would be kind of suicidal because you could easily have a queen in this spot. So he shouldn't really ever be bluffing here. I actually think he should never really be betting here. I don't think he should bet this river because even if he has a queen,
He should be trapping.
he should be trapping you. And the reason he should be trapping you is because you're not likely to hero call this river. What are you going to hero call the river with? If he has a queen, what the hell is he going to expect you to call with? Like a queen? If you have a queen, you're going to bet anyway. He's chopping. So what the hell is he hoping to get value from? So what I think he should do with a queen here is check and let you bet with, 9, 10. Maybe you have spades. Maybe you have hearts. Maybe you have a hand that got counterfeit. I mean, you can be turning a hand into a bluff. So I think he should be trapping with his queens.
Can he target an 8? If you bet the queen, can he target an 8?
Yeah, sure, he could target an 8. But I mean, if he jams this river, are you really going to hero with an 8? I mean, he basically is never bluffing here. It's suicide to bluff here because you can easily have a queen.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I don't know. I don't know the right answer to that because I never get to see it what happened. But I don't know.
So I think he should be checking here all the time, and he checks. So now, look, in certain spots, some opponents are unbalanced. So while he should always be checking here, I think most opponents are not going to check. They're going to jam when they have a queen because they're going to be like, oh, I only have a half pot bet left. I hit a full house. I'm all in. They're not thinking about what their opponent has. They're thinking about what they have. Right? They're playing the game they're looking at the world from their own point of view. They're not looking at it from the point of view of the other people. So that's just the way most people think, and most people think that way about poker. So when they jam, when they check this river, they most likely don't have a queen. They have a hand like a bluff or pocket jacks, or maybe they have aces. So I kind of think here that you have to jam because you can easily have a queen. I mean, you can have ace queen, you can have king queen, you can have queen jack suited. I mean, you're going to play all your queens this way. You raise pre-flop, you call the bet you bet the flop, you have a queen, you called $400 on the turn. I mean, any queen is going to call 400 on the turn.
That's what thinking at that point. I have absolutely more. The only queen that he could show up with is ace queen, when I could have every queen in the deck.
Yeah, exactly. And like we said, if he has ace queen, he's probably going to jam. So like when you go through the hand range funnel and you're putting your opponent on a range, you could eliminate certain hands from his range because of how he played. So ace queen, while it's pretty much the only queen he's going to have pre-flop and therefore the only queen he's going to have on the river, he's not likely to have that on the river simply because he friggin' checked. So like I actually think it's less likely he has a queen here and more likely he has some sort of bluff or jacks or some other hand. And I would probably jam here because how many bluffs do you have? I mean, you're not getting to the river with that many bluffs, right? I mean, you bet the flop, you called the turn. I mean, you can't have that many bluffs. So, I mean, I think you have to bet here. I think you have to jam it in here.
I think one of the things is on these type of games that, because he's also, right, he's playing a lot of other rights that never ever bluffing this were able to bluff the river like that. A lot of people in these type of games are incapable of bluffing.
Yeah.
I think that is, and that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, so I like a jam here. I would go for it. And if he has you beat and calls, whatever, I mean, I think you got to jam it in. Well, I mean, that's what I mean. But if he makes some hero call with aces, fine. I think long run, you're going to have him beat often enough that that's not even a great call. So I think he has to fold, and unless he has a queen and he's trapping. And he folds kings. Yeah, this is exactly what you wanted to happen. I mean, if you think about it, one of the more advanced things in poker is counting combinations. And if he can have kings and aces, there's 6 combinations of kings and 6 combinations of aces, so there's 12 ways he can have aces and kings. there are far fewer ways he can have ace queen, especially if he only has ace queen suited. There's only 2 ways he can have ace queen. So if you think about the math, and this is again a little more advanced, it's maybe arguably 6 times more likely he has kings than he has ace queen. So you have to play your odds here and jam. So I love this play, man, and you got him to fold kings. Well
I just think that
done.
he plays super weird in how he play kings. I just don't understand why would anybody play kings like that.
Yeah, it is a very weird play. I think he got kind of unlucky that the river was the one card. I mean, obviously you could hit a heart, but it is a weird hand. I think he could have tweaked a few things as well. He could have bet bigger on preflop. I think making it 400 would be a lot better than 300, especially given your stack size. If you had $1,000, making it 300 preflop is fine because he's putting in a third of his stack. But he made it 300 when he still had 2,500 behind. You can't be that vulnerable. You got to protect your hand there. So I would have liked to see. I screwed up my Zoom call. I would have liked to see a little bit bigger of a size there. Preflop. Yeah, but you played it really well, Ronnie. Congrats, man. That is pretty impressive. Well done. So yeah, good stuff. This was fun, and I'm excited to go over some of our strategy together on our, in the lab when we go over some of this stuff in the coaching calls, because I feel like, we're just getting started here. Sorry, my Zoom call is a disaster. I'm totally sorry. We're just getting started here, and we haven't even gone deep into the strategy together, and that's going to be a great resource. So this is fun, man. Any follow-up questions here? I'm going to take a few from the audience. And yeah, what's up? Ronnie, there?
Yes.
No, just so any follow-up questions here about this or anything?
I just mainly the tournament hand. I just want to ask you about.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think I think the cash game hand was really interesting too, and I think you played it very well. I'm really impressed with that. So I really like your logic through that hand, and well done. And so, all right, I'm going to take a few calls, Ronnie. I look forward to we'll be in touch off the record, but look forward to working together more in the next weeks. And thanks for being on the show. Appreciate you being here, man.
Okay.
All right, man, my man. Thank you. All right, so guys, if you want to hop in the Zoom call, if you want to hop on the stream, ask me a question or two. I'll be around for a few. I want to take some questions. I know someone dropped in a question about Nevada reopening, and I know Nevada is reopening with 4-handed poker, or maybe 6-handed. I saw a few things thrown around. I don't know if they're requiring masks either, or just if people are going to feel more comfortable with other people wearing masks. I don't have a very strong opinion on what's going to happen. I am very interested to see. I know that my understanding of what is going on in Macau is that I think I read an article where the gaming revenue is down 97%, and then the casinos are essentially empty. And Macau had 30 cases. Now, the culture is different there, and maybe the ease of travel to Macau is more restricted than it is in Vegas. So we can't compare apples to apples because people might fly into Vegas from other places. Are people really going to fly into Vegas and travel right now? Or are they going to go to a casino where chips exchange hands and be in a place where, even though there's 4 people per table, it almost feels to me like more of a psychological social distance than a practical one. Because if you think about your journey from your home to a casino poker table, are you really able to social distance and get to a poker table? Probably not, right? In other words, you're not going to stay 1 meter away from other people if you're going to a poker table, because you have to park your car, walk through the crowded casino floor, assuming the casino is crowded, right? You have to walk through the casino floor, you have to go to the cage, you have to go to the cashier, you have to go to the bathroom, you have to go to the restaurant and eat. I mean, you just can't not be around people. So I would think that someone is going to be more binary in their approach in that they're either going to try and social distance and not be around anyone, or they're not going to care. And so the four-handed thing almost doesn't even make sense, because the people that are trying to social distance aren't going to play because it's four-handed, because they're trying to social distance, and four-handed isn't going to be the thing that draws them over the edge to say they're comfortable playing poker. Because if someone's not comfortable being around other people, they're not going to be comfortable because a poker table is four-handed. And if someone is comfortable, then they're not going to care that it's four-handed or nine-handed, because I feel like it's going to be quite binary. So I feel like if someone really thinks about it, it's just like psychological more than it's like practical. Is it going to do something? Maybe. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so it's hard to say exactly, like, is it going to make a huge difference in terms of the spread because a table is four-handed when they're walking through the casino and being around other people and other scenarios in the casino? I don't really know. I will be very curious to see if the poker room picks up. I imagine the traffic is going to be a fraction of what it was. That's just the clear bet. Yeah, and I understand the Nevada Gaming Commission said that, and is it something they said because there's scientific basis behind it, or is it because that's what they decided that will allow them to pass the law to open? I really don't know. So that's just my 2 cents. I'm very curious to see how this is going to work. All right. Nguyen is here, my man. Nguyen, you want to hop on the show and ask a question? Nguyen's on the Zoom call. Hey, Nguyen, what's up, man? You there?
How you doing, man?
Hey, turn on video if you have it.
No, I'm just gonna do audio.
Oh, okay. I'll leave it on me. What's up, my man? What can I answer for you?
So first thing, long time listener, first time caller.
Thank you. Appreciate you being on. Welcome.
Yeah. So mainly here is game selections. I'm more of what I call myself is a weekend pro, where I have a pretty stable jobs. Income is awesome. But I love competition here, and I just wanted to, go playing weekend, take the game as a really good hobby for me, and make some money. And I decided, I'm usually playing the 2-5 game, and the main goal here is to play against the weaker opponents.
Yeah, right? Of course. If you want to make money, that's a great strategy.
That's how you make cash, right? That's the main goal. If that's what my main goal is to make more cash, to make some additional income, I should play against weaker opponents. But at the same time, I have this competitiveness with me where, once in a while, I just wanted to play a higher one, which is like 5-10 games, which when the skill set is going to be much more improved.
Yeah.
How do I balance myself where I, mostly going to play with the weaker opponent, but sometimes I want to play with the better opponent to keep my skill sets improve? How do I balance that kind of game selections?
Yeah, great question, Wayne. So what I would say is, first and foremost, you want to consider having your bankroll well thought out before you take any steps or shots or play at all. And that process of getting clear on your poker bankroll, separating it from your life roll, and understanding how much you can properly allocate towards poker, and then tracking your results, understanding what your swings are. That's an important part of the process, and something I always encourage my clients to do and go through with them to help them get clear on that picture. Because once you understand, look, your bankroll is 5K, it's a different strategic decision than if your bankroll is 20K when you're playing a 2-5 game or a 5-10 game. So if your bankroll was 25K, for example, then we can say, and this is what I would recommend, I would say, okay, you should be playing 2-5, most likely, but let's take a portion of your bankroll that's discretionary that you can afford to lose and run with it at a 5-10 game. So like your bankroll is 25K, okay, let's take 20K and leave it for 2-5, so that no matter what happens in your worst case scenario, you're rolled for the game if you lose at the 5-10. And then let's take 5K of your bankroll and allocate it towards shot taking. And this is the same thing you would do in constructing an investment portfolio. You have most of your assets in something that's low risk with, a decent return. And then you have small amounts of money that are in a high risk activity, like a startup or a moonshot company or whatever it is. But you don't put all the eggs in the moonshot, because for obvious reasons, if it goes wrong, then you wind up toast. So what I would say is like you can have the best of both worlds here, but it's going to require a little bit of a structure and planning to make sure that you're doing it within the risk that you can afford based on the games you're playing, your win rate, the variance you're incurring, and also some more macro lifestyle factors in terms of like where poker fits in your life and your ability to replenish your bankroll through your job or whatever other means you have. That's going to impact how much risk you can take. So if you only have one shot at poker because you've saved up money and you're really trying to make it as a side hustle or a pro, okay, like you have to be more prudent with your bankroll because this is your one shot to make poker work, so you can't afford those shots. Whereas if you make 15K a month at your job and you could dump 2, 3, 4K a month in poker every month, if you lose, well, you can take more shots. So it has to be part of the bigger picture, and in my experience, in my opinion, and at least that's how I approach poker and where it fits in people's lives and bankroll management, because it's not just in a vacuum. It's not just, you need 30 buy-ins for a game, therefore you should play 15K with 2-5, because it's about more than that. So I think thinking about all these things and finding a plan that really works well for you is a great first place to start, and then segregating your bankroll in a way that's still prudent, but that's giving you the exposure to the game that you want to play while still mitigating against your worst case scenario and managing your risk. Does that make sense?
Yep, awesome.
Cool, man.
Right, thanks, Alec.
You got it, buddy. Thanks for being on the show. Appreciate your support. Thanks for calling in. All right, let's take a few questions from the chat. All right, guys, what's up? Sushant has a question on solvers. If you learn well with them, they can be very helpful and effective. If you don't know how to use them or you're not math or technically oriented, they're going to be overwhelming and I don't want to say counterproductive, but you're just going to spin your wheels and then get frustrated and be like, I quit poker, whatever. So you have to also play to your strengths and understand how you learn. In a perfect world, if everyone learned analytically and mathematically and technically oriented, yeah, use a solver. If you're more intuitive and you don't like math and you have trouble with pot odds, jumping straight into a solver without any guidance or understanding of how to use it or implement it into your own game probably isn't going to give you the results you're looking for. So I think it's a case-by-case basis. And I know for me, when working with clients, it's like the depth that I go into with one is so much different than another, and both of them will get something out of working with a solver in some way. I mean, I always encourage people to like work in the lab to review their hands, but it's got to be the next step for where you're at. So you have to take it in stride and understand which type of solver to work with, and ultimately like how to work with that solver to have it positively impact your game and not be something that's just daunting or overwhelming. So I hope that helps. Mac just got a solver. Yeah, Mac and I have worked together in the past, and he's a ninja with that. He is very quick to learn and very good with it. So him and I actually got very deep in the lab together, and he was doing very well. So I can great stuff, Mac. Keep up the great work. Okay, Richard has a question about when to abandon balanced strategy. GTO means game theory optimal, basically meaning playing like the computer, doing what the book says. When you abandon the book and switch to a strategy that you just try to exploit your opponent's weaknesses. So the short answer is the more you know about your opponent and the more you know about the way they play and their weaknesses, the more you can adopt a strategy to exploit that. So for example, you're playing a tournament, your opponent has 30 big blinds, you're near the money, he's in the big blind, and he really wants to cash, okay? So he's announcing to the table, I don't care if I have 2 aces, I'm not going all in. What are you gonna do? You're on the button, you look down, you have a hand that you're supposed to fold, but you raise, because you know he's gonna be folding very often in the big blind unless he has aces. He says he's gonna fold aces, but he's not. Okay, fine. So you're exploiting your opponent. You have information about a situation that you can deviate from what the book says because you can gain a higher edge by raising. But what if you don't have any information about it? You just sat down at a new table, you look to your left, he looks like a pro. What are you gonna do? Open with 5 deuce off on the button just because you're on the button? No, you're gonna open with the range of hands you're supposed to raise with because you're playing a mathematically solid foundational approach because you don't have any reason to do anything different than what the book says. So that's the simplified answer. That's the foundation that you should use to approach whether or not you should use the book strategy or an exploitative strategy. Hope that helps. All right, guys. Appreciate your time. Thanks for being here. You guys are awesome. We've been here an hour. We're going to do this again next week, I think, on Friday. I think we're going to stick to Fridays. We're running a poker mastermind with a group of people, so I'm keeping quite busy with that. Can't really commit to twice a week at this time. That actually went really well. A few things. If you want to join, we are running a poker mastermind where people are joining for an 8-week program to help them reach that next level in poker and turn poker into a profitable business or a side hustle. We are sold out at this point, so we are starting in about a week, and unfortunately can't take any new applicants. But we are trying to run this again in September because we're getting a lot of interest. People are loving this program, and we had over 400 applicants. So we're thinking of running this again in September. If you're interested and want to hop on the early bird list, there's a link below. You can apply. I might drop it in the chat here too. I'm going to try and drop that in the chat. A link to apply to the program. And again, it's an 8-week program to help you turn poker into a profitable side hustle. You'll get access to our bankroll management course, where you get an idea of how to manage your bankroll, like a little bit like we talked about here, how to turn poker into a profitable business, and the strategy and resources you need to do that, as well as group coaching with me and a private community of people to plug into and ask questions and get answers on your game. So if you're interested in that, apply at the link below, and we will keep in touch. Should be starting that again in the future, and we will send out an email at that time. You can apply here at this link that I just dropped in. So I think that's it, guys. Be sure to subscribe to consciouspoker.com. Again, you'll get access to the free hand reading funnel, the intro to hand reading that I use to work through thinking about what the people had in the hands here. If you like that style of analysis, it all is detailed and outlined in the intro to hand reading. You'll also get access to our Crush Mondays newsletter, which is totally free, where we send out every Monday our latest content, inspiring quotes, actionable items to help you have a better week, and poker tips that we only share exclusively with subscribers. That's all free as well. It comes out every Monday. So you'll be the latest, you'll keep up to date with the latest content, and you'll have a first look at some of the content we're putting out, as well as options to join things like win 2K program or giveaways for books and things like that. So encourage you to check that out. We'll keep you posted with new YouTube lives in that as well for the email. And that's it. You guys are awesome. Thanks for your support. We'll see you next week. Stay in touch. Peace, love. Social